Today's video will demonstrate how to use the program trace in a job interview. Hello, I'm James Helfrich. During a job interview, there's only three things you need to demonstrate. Are you smart? Are you social? Are you methodical? Are you smart? In other words, at some point in time during the interview, are you going to impress the interviewer with your creativity, insight, problem-solving skills, even wit? Who knows, right? Second, social. Does that interviewer want to have you in the office across the hall from them, in a meeting with them? Do they want to spend a lot of time with you? You got to make that social connection. Three, methodical. The interviewer needs to know that you didn't happen upon the solution by luck, that you will always come up with a solution given enough time and resources. You want to show them you're systematic and that you're thorough. This video will demonstrate how to use a program trace to help with two of these three things. Okay, we'll start with the problem definition. Our problem is we want to find out how many instances of a multiple there are in a list. And usually the problem definition is given just like that. Okay, I'm going to start by putting my methodology on the whiteboard. I'm going to do things first of all, I'm going to understand the problem. Then I'm going to come up with some test cases. Then I'm going to come up with a draft of the solution. I'm going to verify my draft. I'm going to code it. Then I'm going to test it. Now, I literally write my methodology on the whiteboard so the interviewer can follow where I'm going. I want to show I'm a good communicator, but also, let's be honest, the interviewer is probably going to be distracted by many things. And so this is going to help the interviewer know where I am in the problem-solving process. And that's going to help him or her understand that I have a methodology. Okay, so we're going to start with the problem definition. I want to find the number of multiples there are in a collection. So I got to figure out if that means. So if I have a list that say, 3, 9, 2, 5, and 6, and I want to find the multiples of 3, then I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. So is the answer 3 in this case? So I'm actually going to walk through the problem by hand to make sure I understand. But then I'm also going to say, hey, what happens if I have -9 and I want to find the multiples of 3? Is -9 a multiple of 3? Let's see here. 3 divided by -9 is going to be -3, remainder is 0. Remainder is 0 means it is a multiple, so the S can be good to go. Okay, so now I'm done with this one. Now I'm going to go with some test cases. All right, test cases are going to include the empty list, the list that has just one multiple, the list that has no multiples, and the list that has negative numbers. Okay, so those are my test cases. I think it's pretty thorough, and to have some error condition. Is the empty list an error condition or not? I don't know. And I'm going to have the 0 answer. I'm going to have a multiple answer. I'm going to have a negative. So I'm going to cover all the bases there. And this is a good way for us to show that we are methodical and creative about finding our test cases. Okay, so I got my test cases done. Now I'm going to come up with a draft of the solution here. I'm going to use pseudocode because this is a looping problem. Okay, so there I have my solution here. I drafted out in pseudocode. I might talk them through as I'm doing it, but I want to keep this video short. Okay, so now I want to know if this works. So now I have my draft done. Now I'm going to verify, and I'm going to verify by using program trace. Okay, so I'm going to do my first case where I have my empty collection here. So I'm going to say here, and I'm going to say this is line A, B, C, and D. Okay. And then I'm going to need my variables here. Okay. I did forget my test cases to mention what number I'm looking for here. All right, so I'm going to do my program trace here. Is 0. Okay, now I'm going to do another test case here. I'm going to do this next test case a little bit faster here. And looks like there's no multiples of 4 in my collection. Okay, now I'm going to do my last test case. Okay, now I'm finished here. Notice how I only go into line D I go into line D 1, 2 times, and I do it for -3 and for 6. And that's when my count goes up to from 0 to 1, 1 to 2. Therefore, the answer is 2. Therefore, the answer is 2. Now I verified my pseudocode with all my test cases. I can proceed confidently into the coding section. Okay, I want you to observe in this solution that I actually use an instance loop, not an index loop like I did my pseudocode. There's absolutely a difference here, but that's totally okay. Notice also I decided to wrap this in a function, or I did it with my pseudocode. These are the kinds of details we put in the code we don't put in the pseudocode. Notice how I use plus plus in my pseudocode, but Python doesn't have the plus plus, so I had to use count plus equals 1. That's okay. These are the kind of details we work out when we write the code. A common mistake people make is they go straight to the code and not the pseudocode first when we're doing an interview question. Keep in mind, sometimes a flow chart, a data flow diagram, a structure chart, or a class diagram might be a better design representation. Okay, now that I forgot to mark off where I am. I've gone through verify, now the code, and now my last step is to test it. All right, now that I draw the table out, I'm gonna do my first test case, which is my empty list. Okay, I'm gonna return 0 here because I never go inside the body of the loop. Good to go. All right, now we got the second test case, a single element. Okay, looks like my answer is 1. I'm gonna check that off double. Go to my next test case. Okay, looks like my answer is 0. Notice how we're going through multiple instances of the loop. I decided to put horizontal lines to make it easier to tell where the different iterations of the loop are. I'm probably gonna do the same thing for my last problem because I'm gonna have 4 instances in my list. Yeah, got a little tight there towards the end, but that's totally cool. Notice how there are 2 elements that are multiples of 2 in the list. I'm going to check that off. Therefore, I've done, therefore my pseudocode works, my Python works. I'm confident I can move forth and I've solved this problem. As you can see, an important part of the job interview process is being able to validate your algorithm. And the trace is a big part of that. You can learn more about the trace in the trace chapter of the software design textbook.